It was a rainy Tuesday when that fancy certified letter showed up, half soaked in my old tin mailbox that's been leaning sideways since the 80s. I stood there on my creaking porch, tearing it open while the storm beat down on my roof, and I swear to you, before I even read the first line, my gut told me I was about to have the fight of my life. Turns out, I was right. They called it an eviction and civil violation notice, gold-embossed Pine Hollow Reserve Homeowners Association logo at the top, all proper and intimidating. Basically, they claimed my granddad's old fishing cabin was some kind of eyesore that dragged down their million-dollar property values. They gave me 72 hours to pack up 50 years of memories or get slapped with fines and a lawsuit. My name's Sam Carter, by the way. Grew up spending every summer on this lake. Learned to swim here, learned to kiss here, learned to gut a fish right on this dock my granddad built with his bare hands. After he passed, I made the cabin my full-time home because it's the only place that ever felt like mine, until Victoria Hale and her army of rule-loving HOA officers decided otherwise. Victoria. Let's talk about her for a second. Picture an ice queen in a $1,000 suit with a fake smile so wide you could park a yacht on it. Her husband's a developer, big surprise, built half the McMansions popping up around Pine Hollow these last 10 years. They sell people on rustic lakeside charm, then turn around and bully folks like me and my neighbors to make everything look like a country club catalog. That night, the rain finally let up. And my old friend Walter rang me. He's pushing 80, still mows his own lawn, and drinks his whiskey neat like a man who's seen too much. He croaked into the phone, "Sammy, they sent us one too. 90 days to fix the porch or sell it." Claire's crying in the kitchen. She was born in this house, Sam. Hearing that broke me in a way I didn't expect. My granddad's place was worth fighting for, but knowing they were squeezing out folks like Walt and Claire? Nah, that flipped a switch. Next morning, I marched into the county records office, smelling like damp pine and revenge. Miss Ellie, the clerk, went to high school with my mom. She's the type who knows everything about everybody but never gossips. She didn't even look surprised when I slammed that letter on her counter. "Victoria's been pushing that rezoning through since January," she said, pulling out files faster than I could blink. "They redrew the lines, tacked your land into Pine Hollow Reserve, ran a notice in the local paper nobody under 70 reads. Legal? Technically. Fair. Not a chance." She laid out a bunch of dusty maps, yellowed surveys older than my dad's fishing rod. And there it was, the original land grant from 1924, signed by a county judge, handing the entire lake and a 50-foot strip of shoreline to my great-granddad Eli Carter. Payment for surveying half this valley back when cars were still optional. I just stared at that hand-scribbled note on the margin, "Lake and immediate shore reserved to Eli Carter, his heirs and his signs." Miss Ellie tapped her pen on it, real gentle. "Sam, if this chain of title holds, you don't just own that cabin. You own Carter Lake. And every dock, boathouse, even the fancy clubhouse and beach Victoria brags about in her HOA newsletters." I swear my heart stopped, then did a backflip. For once, it felt good to be the stubborn grandson who never sold Grandpa's old place. Before I even left that building, I had my next call lined up. Marvin Wright, retired lawyer, fought 3 divorces from my aunt and won all 3. Man's about 75 now, still uses a flip phone and drinks coffee so black it could melt steel. When I spread those old deeds and surveys across his desk above the hardware store, Marvin chuckled like a kid watching a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat. "Sam, your granddad was no fool," he said, pushing up his glasses. "I helped him renew this chain of title 20 years ago when the first developers sniffed around. He told me, Marv, let him build whatever they want. If they ever push my boy around, he'll own him right back. Looks like today's the day." I leaned back in that creaky office chair, feeling equal parts terrified and ready to burn this entire HOA to the ground. Marvin cracked his knuckles, grinning. "We'll hit him with a cease and desist for that bogus eviction. Then serve notice that every bit of their precious lakefront party pad sits on land you own. They want to keep sipping cocktails on your beach? They can pay up or pack up." He patted my shoulder. "Your granddad would be damn proud." 2 days later, word got out. Victoria called an emergency HOA meeting at their prized clubhouse. Walt called me right after he got the memo. "They're planning to steamroll you, Sam. Whole show of force, scare you into signing over the cabin for pennies." I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. "Good, Walt. Let him gather. I'll be there, with Marvin." When I walked into that marble-floored, chandelier-hanging monstrosity they call a clubhouse. I swear you could hear a pin drop. 30 or so lakefront homeowners sat on leather chairs that probably cost more than my whole truck. Victoria spotted me from across the room mid-sentence. Her smile flickered like a bad Christmas light. She sashayed over, arms crossed so tight I thought her pearls might snap. "Mr. Carter, you're not on the list for this meeting. Guests must wait outside." I flashed my best backwoods grin. "Well, ma'am, since you'll claim my cabin's part of Pine Hollow now, I figured I'd come see what I'm paying dues for." She hissed through her teeth. "You're being evicted tomorrow if you don't comply. It's final." Right on cue, Marvin stepped up beside me. Suit pressed, eyes twinkling behind those old wire frames. He dropped a thick envelope on the boardroom table like a hammer. "Actually, Miss Hale, this here's a cease and desist. Mr. Carter's property predates your HOA by 50 years. He never consented to your jurisdiction, so that eviction? It's void." He slid out a second document, slower this time for dramatic effect. "And this, folks, is a notice of trespass and unauthorized construction. Turns out your beach, your docks, your parking lot, every bit of your lakefront amenity sits on land owned by Sam Carter. Been in his family since 1924. So unless you'd like a sheriff to padlock this fancy building next week, I suggest we talk lease terms." You could feel the room shift. Half the crowd glanced at Victoria like she'd grown horns. Her husband, Douglas, big shot builder, suddenly looked like he'd swallowed a frog. Victoria tried one last swing. "This is extortion. We'll bury you in court costs, you backward hillbilly." Marvin chuckled, tapping his finger on the deed. "Mrs. Hale, this isn't extortion. It's property law. And your husband's lawyers should have checked it before pouring concrete on land they didn't own." I swear Walt's old man laugh from the back nearly made my day more than anything. He nudged Claire, whispered loud enough for half the room to hear, "Told you that Carter boy was trouble." The next weeks were a storm of lawyer calls and tense backyard meetings. But when the dust settled, guess what? Victoria's HOA signed a 99-year lease for my land under that fancy clubhouse and beach, paying me a yearly fee that's more than I ever made fixing boat motors. And my cabin? Permanently exempt from their paint color rules and ornamental flowerbed nonsense. But money aside, my favorite part? We set up a shared council, equal votes for old cabin families and new mansion folks, so no HOA president can ever strong-arm this lake again. A month after all this, I threw a big fish fry on my dock. Walt, Claire, even a few of the mansion folks came by. Marvin sat in my granddad's old lawn chair, drinking beer and telling stories about the day he made Victoria Hale blink for the first time in her life. As the sun dipped behind the pines, I stood by the water's edge, watching that same moonlight dance on Carter Lake, same as it did for my great-granddad a century ago. And I thought, this place was never just mine, it's ours. All of us stubborn enough to say enough when power gets too greedy. So here's my question for you watching this. What would you have done in my boots? Walk away or stand your ground? Tell me down in the comments. And if you've got your own HOA horror story, I want to hear every word. Hit like if you love a good David versus Goliath comeback. Subscribe if you believe communities should protect each other, not police each other. And next time someone tries to bully the little guy, remember Carter Lake and whose dock they're really standing on. Catch y'all next time.